more talk about that shortwave radio that I was working on during the past weeks, and today, yesterday, etc. etc. I was talking in an earlier video about the front end, and I made now the front end, and it's here, tuning capacitor with that arrow, and here the knob that sets the amplification of the first transistor. And I've used for my first experiment a field effect transistor. It did not want to work, so I stepped back to a old circuit that always works, both for AF and HF, higher frequencies. At first I made it with a BC547B. That is not a specific high frequency transistor, but it can work very okay. And I have to say that this first stage now has no antenna coil on its input. And say the official name for that is aperiodic. An aperiodic antenna is, say, a piece of wire hanging somewhere. Of course, such an antenna also has an ideal frequency where it can receive at its best, but anyway, don't want to pay too much attention on it. And here is that the preset for the preamplifier, and here the potentiometer that does the job by aligning the high frequency amplification. Like I say, no antenna coil. That means that this high frequency amplifier cannot be tuned at the moment. It will be tuned in the future here with the help of this capacitor and a coil that will be somewhere here. Anyway, only want to say give a demo about how such a high F preamplifier, when it has no say selective coil tank circuit at its input, how it can work, and when you want to make experimental radios, the effects that you can expect. So, small overview again here. Quite a long project. Was not my idea that it took so much time, but anyway, let's first look to the schematic. It's more or less the most bare high frequency audio amplifier, not audio, high frequency amplifier that you can make. Grounded emitter circuit. This resistor is critical, 1 kilo ohm here. Ideal voltage for this unit is 9 volts, but here you can have the preset potentiometer, and that's very necessary, because otherwise it will be more or less difficult to get the whole high frequency amplification under control only with that here, this potentiometer. So this goes to the IF. In this case, can also be connected to another type of radio, because it's a aperiodic high frequency amplifier that more or less always works. I tested a BC547B. It gave out quite some noise. That's why I tested after that the BF195. That's a typical high frequency transistor, and indeed the noise was somewhat smaller. But on the other hand, a BC547, not a specific high frequency transistor, can also do the job. So let's listen. Find the radio station. This is of course Radio China, always on shortwave. I'm gonna switch also the TL lights off, because perhaps it will give some radio disturbances anyway. So let's look, listen. So this is now the radio station, and let's listen first. And now I want to switch in the front end that high frequency amplifier, and of course the noise will go up, and also the radio station is somewhere else on the VFO. Has to do, by the way, with the way that this radio is constructed. It's a hobby project anyway. So switch it in, and now we hear nothing, and we put up here the high frequency amplification. You can hear the noise. Now it's maximum. Turn it back, and that's a reason why you need a preset to get here, say, a good reach in a certain way of high frequency amplification. So let's try to find the amplified radio signal, radio station. So you can hear that it is somewhat has somewhat more volume, the whole radio station, but there's also more noise. Now to the max, and there is always here a position in that high frequency amplifier where there is not low noise, but limited noise level, and at the same time a good reception. So here it's overdone, here it's okay. So that was all that I wanted to show. Let's go back to the situation. Let's go back to the situation where the high frequency amplifier is no longer active, and listen what happens. So now it's gone. Try to find a radio station again without that high frequency amplifier. So here it is. You can hear it is weaker, but I can also lift up the audio amplification. So what's the conclusion? There's always, say, a kind of ideal alignment of all these knobs where the noise level is quite low or acceptable and the audio signal is okay. Do it again and then I will stop. Well, I think this was another radio station, but I hope to have shown the principles. Back again to the schematic. I think it's a useful circuit. Need some more light. Thanks for watching, by the way. I wish you luck.